And we are the original couple because if you look at the Bible, it was Adam and Chaya before the hate. Anyways, let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about the now versus the future, why you should choose a partner for the future versus the now. Okay, so Adam, there's basically two ways that you can choose a partner. One is for the now, which is like, I'm happy now with them. I love them now. They make me happy now. They fit into my life now. Now we're having a really great time. So I think, therefore, if we've been having such a great time now, I would then want to marry them because, it's been going on great for now. So what do you think the difference is between choosing somebody like for the future based on the now and how things are going versus going backwards, like thinking about how they're going to be for your future life and focusing on a future image and then working backwards from there to make the decision?
Well, so I mean, I think that there are two different types of people that you're attracting. Number one is if you are looking for somebody with the emphasis on how you're feeling now, you may find somebody who's fun now, but might not align with your ultimate values. And if you're going on a date and it's getting more serious, and you can find yourself in a space where it gets very serious, and then you're faced with this dilemma of like, well, I didn't want it to get that serious. I don't really like them in that way. I can't see my future with them. But you've already gone through, taken a couple months of your life or years of your life. So many people are in a relationship for 2-3 years, and it just keeps dragging on. And number one, it's probably dragging on because they don't feel so comfortable in that way where they can safely surrender to that person. And number two is that it's gone on so long in one way, right? If you're not future focused and you don't know what you want, then it just kind of like the status quo is maintained. So for example, if you're a guy and you really like the person, well, you've known this person so long in the context of boyfriend girlfriend, and the dynamic between boyfriend girlfriend is much different than that of married, or husband wife, or even being engaged. And so I think it just makes it more confusing. And of course there is a big benefit, or you do have to like the person, right, in the future or now. And even if you're future focused, you still have to like them now, but it's a different focus. And I think it shifts the while you're dating, it shifts the dates and how, and what you conduct.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. Thanks for sharing that. I definitely see how when I was dating, if I was focused on myself and with what I needed now, it was very selfish and very short term. So I would think about what I needed to make me happy. So I needed companionship, friendship, someone to go share life with. It was very self-centered from what made me happy and what I was enjoying and how I can help that person and inspire that person be good in their life too. And then I had this massive shift where I did a huge healing process. And I realized that the only way I'm going to have a stable marriage is if I think about what causes stability in a marriage, which is completely different than what I wanted in the now. Yeah, that made sense.
Yeah.
So,
And so I guess a question I have for you is, if somebody finds themselves in a place where they're maybe active in a relationship, or they're not in a relationship, but their past relationships have been now focused, what are some tips or kind of like ways to shift that perspective? And how does somebody take this advice or take this input and actively implement it into their lives?
yes, that's a great question. So, I think the way to implement this idea of future versus now is to think about your values and what you don't ever want to have a conversation about. So Adam and I have a conversation all the time about, let's say, cleaning the house, like who's cleaning what, but it's more of just like we both know the house needs to get cleaned, and it's not really a heavy conversation. It's just like talking about something. So let me just make that a little bit more clear. A conversation would be like, what should do? Is this really important to you? How come you don't clean? Are you sure? Can you just clean for me? And then it becomes a conversation where there's a little bit of tension and a little bit of a push and a pull and a little bit of like, oh, do we really have to talk about this again? So when you have someone in the now, you often don't do those hard talks. You're not often talking about how you want to raise your children or what values are important to you, or if you want to send them to religious school or not, or if you want to feed them kosher food or vegetarian food or not. You're not thinking about these things. But if you have a child and let's say you're vegetarian and that means a lot to you, or you're vegan and you're fine with him eating meat, but then you have kids and you want the kids to also be vegan or kosher, and he's feeding them meat or bacon, you feel destroyed inside to the point where you feel like that partner is hurting your kids, and therefore you become slower and over time more and more detached from feeling this person's really your highest potential. And this happens all the time because unless you're thinking about, does this person value what I would share with my children, how I want to raise my children, how I want to live in my 40s and 50s and 60s. If you don't think backwards, then you're not even coming up with the right questions to ask yourself or your partner in the now to see if you're going to grow together in the future or grow apart. And one of the main things that people grow apart in the future is that they're not of the same faith. They spiritually just grow in different directions, and it has nothing to do with how much they love each other. It has nothing to do with how fun they had when they were dating. It has to do that we are souls in a physical body. And when we age, which you see very commonly of all faiths and all religions, when people age, they have more of a spiritual connection and awareness to how important that is for healing, for fulfillment, for relationships, for benefits. And it's not as important when you're younger, simply because you kind of grow and grow into it. So if you find someone who's really great now, but they can't spiritually grow with you or have the same soul print that will help you feel able to fully trust what they're going to do with your kids versus having the conversation around, can we send them to religious school? Are we keeping, kosher or not? What are we doing this holiday? Oh, I didn't know you were going to like take them Christmas shopping. I thought we were going to just only do Hanukkah. And all of these things come up and they create havoc and decay in the relationship that if you don't think about the now, hold on, he's just charging it, putting the charger in. If you don't think about the future now, you don't make and ask yourself the right questions for making sure the future is sustainable.
Wait, I do have one more thing.
Yeah, I want to hear. So while Adam's plugging this in, we don't need the bright light.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't need the bright light. While Adam's plugging this in, what's some questions that you had about, choosing a partner for the future and working backwards versus basing it on how well it goes in the now?
Well, so one thing I also wanted to say, as you were talking about the cleaning the house, right? Which is very, very common. I think that a lot of people, when they are dating, kind of a symptom of, is it now focused versus future focused, is what is the dynamic between the two people, in the sense of, is it you versus me or us together? I think that's quite big. Why do I say that? Because if I'm just focused on the now and focused on my happiness now and kind of what I'm feeling in the moment or feeling now, as I think that, sorry, I'm used to the light on, so it's kind of like taking me out. But hold on. Is that I'm in it for myself, as opposed to we're working together, we're seeing if we're compatible together. And if we're compatible together, there is a we. And it's a we that is kind of like, I want to continue with this person. And therefore, if you want to continue with this person, as opposed to, well, right now, this person is giving me X, Y, and Z, then there's kind of like it's two opposing versus we're in it together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that it's really important, like you said, thank you for sharing that. The in it together versus the now. I think one of the biggest mistakes single people make when they're dating people is that they push themselves into a we before they actually are a we. So if you're dating and you've been dating for 1 year or 2 years, you've just assumed that the person that you're dating is a we. Like, we've been together for a year or two. We see each other on weekends. We sleep together. We go to parties together. We celebrate holidays and birthdays together. We do Valentine's Day together. Like, you assume that you're already a we just because you've been dating them and you like them in the now. The issue with that is that I think it's more important to come from a selfish perspective, not selfish in a bad way, but like self honoring, self worth, that separate from the fact that I've already established us as a we, like, for me, is this person uplifting my life? For me, is this person my highest potential, or am I just staying with them because I love them and I'm used to it? Is this the person that I actually want to have raise my children? Let's say I went away for a week adventure. Would I want this person with their character and values and belief systems and religion and spirituality and commitment to religion and spirituality? Like, would I want that person to raise my kids completely? Because that, at the end of the day, would make me feel like I'm perpetuating a sustainable family life that's meaningful and important to me. But if you jump into the we too fast and you just make that other person your identity, what that does is it makes it very, very, scary to ever think about not being with that person again, because you've already established where we. So if we've been dating for 2 years, we might as well just get engaged, and we might as well just, get married. And we love each other and we know how to work well and we know how to communicate well. So I'm sure we'll figure it out down the road with kids and values. But what that does is that takes away from your objective vision and decision making of whether or not this person actually is for you your highest potential of love, that's going to make you feel inspired every day. I am inspired by Adam every day. That you want to aspire to him. I aspire to be like certain character traits that Adam has that I don't. Is this person completely stable? Do I know that the money is coming in at the same time every month, or do they just lose their job, or have issues and can't hold on a job, or have relationship issues, or sobriety issues that you don't know the consistency of the finances? Are they sober? Are they going to just use their money one day to like get high and you're not sure where that's going to go? Can you, again, leave them with your kids? Whether you're planning on having kids or not is not the point here. Let's say you are going to have kids, or the hypothetical thing that's of value, which is invaluable. Would that be, someone that you feel is like literally the best person, that makes you feel, when you repeat it and feel it back to yourself, like you made the ultimate decision? So I think that's a really good point. It's not about, you know, like becoming a we too fast in the dating process, always, and even in the engagement process. Think about it always back to yourself. Am I really happy with my decision? Because sometimes you'll stay in your decision out of fear of fucking up, excuse me, out of fear of messing up or being a mess up, or, letting somebody down, or because you already spent $50,000 on the wedding, and how can you possibly like piss everyone off and tell them it's broken? Like, you're very other focused, but be self-focused. Like, you're not stuck yet. You don't have kids yet. You don't have to get divorced if you can save yourself now. So really think about the future and work backwards as an individual.
Yeah, and I think that going back to what you said, just kind of as a symptom of the dating process and kind of like where your values are aligned, is that I forgot my
No, you're
thing
doing
again. Hold on. Let's jog my memory. I forgot.
if you're
Anyway, it
aligned.
was
Talking about if you're aligned with your values.
Yeah. Anyway, I will make another video on it.
I think it's important to just make big note, and let me know when the memory comes to you.
Yeah.
Is the alignment?
Oh yes.
Yes,
I
I
got
knew
it.
he would
Yeah,
get it.
there
I
you
had
go.
full faith in you.
So basically, like during the dating, like while you're dating, like it's human nature to want to commit, right? It's
Yes, to want it to work out. I want it to work out.
It's human. Yeah, it's human nature to want it to work out. Of course, like who wants to go through this
breakup,
a breakup, right? And it's also human nature to want, you know, once you found somebody who gives you, you know, gives you love and gives you these things, to hold on to that. And I think that some people commit before they're committed. For example, what I mean by that is they'll merge bank accounts, they'll move in together, they'll merge.
I think that one. I think they'll move in together more than they'll merge bank accounts. People who are married don't do that. Yeah. But yeah, they'll move in together.
They'll move in together. They'll like buy a puppy together.
Yeah.
You know, something like this, right? Where they are symbolically trying to show their commitment and kind of like be committed, but without that foundation of actual commitment. And what marriage is, some, you know, in the whatever world, marriage is kind of like a funky concept, but really it's like showing that you're committed and being committed. And even if people say they don't care about marriage, they're committing to, they're finding this one person that they really like. They're committing by moving in together, sleeping together, anything to deepen the emotional connection. But really it has to be founded on the actual commitment, on marriage. Marriage is a commitment. And from there, all of these things can come forth. And so during the dating process, it just gets confusing. And I think that one thing you're trying to do is to make dating less confusing.
Yes.
And the way that you're doing it, by taking a step back and focusing on your values, focusing on your internal healing, focusing on you, right? It's not selfish. It's the most selfless thing you can do. And why is that? I think it's because once you get to know yourself, you're committing to yourself, you're establishing that foundation on yourself. And from that place of strength, you can find somebody. And number one, the people that you'll attract into your life, or maybe even not using the word attract, but maybe the people that you choose to date are going to be a completely different caliber of person. So number one, if you take the time to work on yourself first and understand yourself and know, I'm okay with this. This is who I am. This is who I'm not. This, I don't really know what I think about this. And then you go from that place of understanding your own red flags, green flags, middle flags, or whatever. Then when you find this other person, then it's you're much more clear with the values that you bring to the table. And also you are clear about, once you know what the other person brings to the table, you can say, oh, I'm okay with that. Hermosi was saying that like there's red flags, you know, in the other person. Know what, instead of knowing all their good traits, you know what their bad traits are. And then you can say, oh, I could live with that. Yeah. Or that bad trait is not a bad trait. I'm also that way. Yeah. Right. But if you don't know yourself, then you don't know if the other person's traits sync and vibe with you, or if they don't. Right. And there's no right or wrong answer, but you have to become clear in yourself first.
I mean, I couldn't have said that better myself. If you want to make a decision on who's best for you, you have to know yourself and you have to not bullshit yourself on to like what's acceptable for you or not. So when Adam and I first started dating, he would basically told me straight off the bat like the bigger issues in his life, and then I had to take time and think, is this something that is a big issue for me or not? And it wasn't. It was something that, part of his family dynamic, but not part of his character. And I think that's a really big important distinction that you make. There's people, everyone goes through stuff, everyone has trauma, everyone has baggage, everyone's a little screwed up, but the difference is, are they healed from it or not? Can they talk about it or not? Is it part of their past and a story of how they became who they are right now, or is it who they are right now and it's their living, present life? So yes, everyone's going to have trauma and everyone's going to have mess ups and everyone's going to have imperfections and red flag character traits, but was it a story of how they built the character that they are now, which is stable and healthy? Or is it still their character and they're still working on shit, but they're still unstable and haven't come to a place where they're healthy and know how to cope in a healthy way and know how to communicate in a healthy way? Finding someone of the same faith, who has the same values, who wants to raise the kids the same way, who you're not expecting to change or be more sober or help later, or you help them with money, or you help them inspire them to your religion, or you help inspire them on working more or becoming their best self. If you, woman or man, are inspiring your partner to become more of your faith, your spirituality, work harder, become more sober, become a better communicator, you're in the wrong relationship, because you have now created a dynamic where you are hoping somebody changes just a little bit, which you're not actually accepting for them for who they are. And you've placed yourself in a dynamic where you're constantly being, you know, the giver or the mother or the father, whichever role you've put yourself in, but you're definitely not aspiring to be like that person that you're trying to change. Because if you were really trying to aspire to be like that person, you wouldn't be thinking about all the little ways that you can help them get a little bit better.
And also another thing beautifully said is that when you are trying to push something on the other person that you're dating, you're not dating them.
You're dating their
You're
potential,
dating what you
what you
want
hope
them, you're dating what you want them to be
or become.
or become. Because and that's the ultimate disservice, because you're not validating who they are, you're not accepting who they are, because if you were, then you wouldn't want to change them in a fundamental way. And I think that there's a nuance here, because as you said, we all have work that we need to do on ourselves. None of us are perfect. I'm not perfect, you're not perfect,
Far from it.
close to perfection. And I think that there's a nuance, because we're not the final version of ourselves, but I don't, maybe you can elaborate into what growth looks like, and what healthy growth looks like in the present versus dating or marrying a a version of themselves that's not who they are, because you want them to be different and you're trying to attach
Yeah.
yourself to that. So there's a nuance there, and I don't know.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up that nuance. It's a really great point. So the difference is, like, one is you're basically accepting like 90% of that person as good, but there's 10% of them that you just hope changes, right? So like 90, let's say you're dating an addict, okay? So he smokes a little too much pot, or he watches too much porn, or you're a man and she's fucking perfect. Sorry for cursing. She's amazing and sweet and great, but she's not Jewish and you're Jewish, and you're just hoping that she'll learn over time and want to do what you love. So what you're doing in both circumstances, they're all the same, whether it's spiritual growth or character growth or sobriety growth. It's all the same. You're focusing on the 90% that's good and sort of neglecting the 10% that's bad or that you hope changes. And what that does, it distorts your perception and honesty of how this will play out in the future. Because what happens in dating is very different than what happens in marriage. What happens in dating is you prioritize each other. You have a lot of sex, you watch a lot of movies, you make a lot of dinners, you do a lot of fun stuff. You know, are still exciting in each other's lives. And so that 90% you just assume is going to transfer into the marriage. But what, and that 10% will just stay so small, it's like irrelevant. Like they'll get sober, they'll like my religion, they'll do Shabbat with me, he won't smoke pot as much, he'll stop watching porn, he'll work better on his money, he'll get a job, you know, all these stuff. But what happens actually as time elapses is that 10% slowly seeps into the 90, and that 90% slowly decreases and becomes the 10. So the sex and the good times and the food becomes like 10% of your marriage, ki'ilu, meaning like you do sleep together and you do have dinners together, but that's not the highlights of our life. And it's definitely not that those parts aren't great, but it's not the highlights of what keeps us together. Plenty of people have great sex and get divorced, right? Plenty of people have great dinners and get divorced. So that part just becomes less and less meaningful as what's going to keep your marriage together or what makes you like in love with the person. And it's not the intimacy and it's not the food. It's that I like his character, that I don't hope he changes, that I'm not trying to have conversations around spirituality or sobriety. It's that he's already my spiritual soul print. I don't have to ask him if he wants to stay up late doing Purim Shlach Manot, which is a Jewish holiday, tiny little thing that unless you actually care about it, the other person wouldn't do it with you. I'm not dragging him to a Passover dinner, hoping that he appreciates the Passover dinner because I appreciate it. He does that on his own and we just do it together. There's no conversations about that. So all this stuff that makes dating great slowly diminishes, and that 10% that you were ignoring now becomes your full reality. The now becomes the sobriety becomes everything. Can I trust him? Is he coming home tonight? Can I rely on him? I'm having a really hard night. Is he going to be there for me? I'm not sure that this is the person I want to raise my kids with. I think I just might have fucked up, or you know, actually keeping Shabbat means more to me than I thought now that I have kids, or now that I'm older and I realize how much benefit that it comes. I don't want to have to ask him to do Friday night with me. If he goes out on a Friday night, I can't really argue with him about it because we just agreed that, you know, sometimes we'll do it, sometimes we won't. But then in my heart of hearts, it's sort of dampening how much I aspire to be like that person. So that's why you have to think future focused versus now focused, because the 10% of the things you hope to change will become your reality, and those things you can't change. And then your marriage sort of destructs, which is why so many marriages sort of destruct over time.
And I think that something that you would said is what you do is you save marriages before the first date. And I think that the asking yourself the question, you are going to be asking yourself these questions, whatever it is. Let's say keeping Shabbat, right? At some point, either you address it before you're dating, i.e., when you're single, you get to the bottom of what you fundamentally believe or want in your life. And then, or if you don't do it then you're going to be doing it when you're already married, 2 kids, and then this comes up. And so what you said, which is the 90% is good during dating, and there's only 10% that is push, that is not good, and you push it and you suppress it, that seeps into the 90, especially after you've made more of a commitment, or even if you haven't gotten married, as you've emotionally invested more of your emotional spirit into the relationship. And so if you're going to be asking yourself the question, why not do it in the most painless time? It seems like the most painful time, right? In the moment when you're doing the work, right? When you're single, you really want to, have somebody hold you. You really want to settle down. It'll suppress all of the other people in your life that are like, why aren't you married yet? Or, like, what's wrong with you? And you'll feel like you're doing the right thing by finding somebody and, going forth and adulting, right? But it's really the most painless time to do so. You're free. When you're single, you're free to explore yourself. You're free to figure out what you want. And then once you put in that work, then when you find somebody, first of all, you're going to find somebody. You're going to automatically find somebody. You're not even going to see, your lenses are going to be different. You're not going to see the people that you would have attracted before. So it's like there was this concept when I was in my 20s, where in life there's like things holding you down, right? There's like, let's say, 20 different things holding you back from being free or from growth, let's say. So there's two ways of managing that. There's one is focus listing out all of the 20 different things that are on your mind and that are holding you back. And then you can work on each one of them. You could say, okay, my ego, I need to work on that. First of all, how do you work on your ego? There's not like a clear way of doing so. But then it's so exhausting. Let's say you spend so much of your mental energy focusing on your ego and you fix your ego. Then there's 19 other things, right? And so there's another way of doing it, which is what I resonate with, which is, instead of focusing on the negativities, focusing on getting to know yourself and focusing on your positives. And through that, the negatives kind of, if you just add more fuel to your path, to your journey, then those things start to resolve itself. So in the context of values, going back to the original topic at hand of focusing on future based, it's like focusing on what you care about, on your value system. It just makes everything so much easier. Number one, from the people that you attract in the first place. You're not going to need to go to exquisite dating apps or matchmakers to find this person, because it's going to be much easier to find the person in the first place. That's number one. Number two is, you're not going to have to try so hard, because when it's a vibe, you're going to know, and the person is going to be more in line with what you want. And then once you start to get more emotionally intimate and you start to deepen your connection and you get married, let's say, then these core fundamental issues won't come up. And it's just much more painless, even though it seems like working on yourself is the hardest, but it's really the easiest, and it's the easiest way to prevent a lot of future conflict.
Yeah, I think that was so beautifully said, because it is really painful to end a relationship. It's like a death. You not only lose the person, but you lose your hope and your dream of everything you thought you're going to do with this person. That's, in my professional experience, the number one reason women and men stay with their partners that they know aren't their highest potential of love, but the 90% is there, and the 10% they just look the other way and hope that it decreases over time when it actually increases. But they can't leave their partner simply because they've already identified themselves as a we with them, and they visualize their future with this person. And for them to break their dreams and their visualizations and their hopes of marrying this person like they had saw in their head, that break of the fantasy of the hope is so painful that they can't actually do it. It's too strong of a sensation of abandonment and death that they rather stay in it and hope it works out than end it now, because they feel intuitively and logically something's a little off. But that would just hurt too much, and they cannot go through creating a small and short amount of pain to save themselves from a much larger and longer term pain. Because even if you've been dating someone for a few years and you break it off and it's like a loss and a death and you cry and you miss the person, it's significantly less pain than if you were married, got divorced, had kids now without a spouse, have to manage kids alone, have to go through divorce lawyers, have to figure out how to move all your stuff out of somebody else's house. And now you've built a home and a family with them that you're now leaving. I mean, that amount of pain is so much higher, and it's for so much longer because divorces get drawn out and now you have kids forever and the money is forever and the memories are forever and you've been married forever and you already put on a white dress and now you're not sure if you want to do it again forever. You want to really go from the future backwards and say, how can I best prevent divorce, not how can I get married? Because if you're looking to get married, you will want to marry that person who's not of the same faith as you, or who's not as sober as you would hope that they are, or as stable and driven as you hope they are. But if you're thinking about your children and how to create a home with synergy, a home with harmony, a home where you don't have conversations around holidays or food or activities that you're going to do with your kid, your whole life is vibing on a much, much higher level where you are secure in it working out and being sustainable. If there's constant conflict and friction, even under the surface, you essentially distance yourself from that person over time because you lose respect for who they are, because you're really losing respect for who you are because you never honored your intuition in the first place. And it makes this aching feeling inside of yourself, knowing that you kind of made the wrong decision and you're not proud of your life. And that slowly destroys you and creates more separation in your marriage, which eventually creates it to destruct.
Yeah.
So
And
on that note,
I just want to say one thing, which is that I think that a lot of our audience is going to vibe with this idea
but be
of,
like, fuck it. Sorry.
I think that it's
Sorry, Tal, for
more,
cursing.
I think it's more about confusion. How do you do something in a new way? How do you date? Because what we're saying is the present versus the future. It's human nature to focus on how I'm feeling. And I think
And
that
want to
it's
belong.
and want to belong and all of this stuff. These are human emotions, and you're placed into this situation of there's this other person. All the emotions flow through, and and that's just how life typically works. And I think that the reason why there's a lot of that first and not of the second, there's a lot of the now based versus future based dating and marriage and all of that stuff, is that there's no clear pathway how to do something different, because it's human nature to do the first one. And so I think that what would you say in terms of what is the blueprints for the new way, for the better way, and how can our viewers benefit from that and get started on the new path?
That's a really great question. Adam is so on point. So yeah, there's great concepts we spoke about, but how do you put them into practical application? Is you need to first create a commitment. So when you first start a relationship with somebody that you're not, sleeping around with other people, you've decided to commit to them, even in the dating process, there's a commitment, right? So you just expect them to communicate with you every day, like, hey, good morning, honey, how are you? Or hey, good night, how was your day? There's a level of commitment where they're regularly and consistently giving you attention. And that's sort of why you become addicted to the relationship and not want to let it go, because that consistent and committed attention is a human need, but really it needs to come from the self to the self. It's just not taught enough that it needs to be generated from the self, but it's a real human need to survive and be optimally functional. So then you seek it out in someone else. So step one is to commit to yourself. step one is I now am committed to my needs, not fulfilling somebody else's needs. I'm committed to giving myself attention every day, not being committed to giving somebody else attention every day. I'm committed to designing my life. I am not committed to designing somebody else's life. Committed to inspiring myself. I'm not committed to inspiring someone else. So first is make the commitment that you're going to shift all your energy from the other focus of making your mom proud and your boss proud and your girlfriend or boyfriend proud, to you being proud. That's one. Develop a high relationship with God is two. If you're not committed to something higher than yourself, well, darn me golly, you're just going to revert back to your old behaviors simply because you need something greater than yourself to propel you past the pain, to propel you past wanting to stay small. If you think about yourself, it's easy to be hard on yourself and just kind of keep in rhythm to mediocrity. If you think about God and your purpose and that you are loved and that you're here for a reason and that you deserve joy and that God wants you to have a good life, you can kind of gain energy from something greater than yourself to pull yourself out of just wanting to keep what makes you comfortable. So a really great example of that is, addiction is prevalent all over the world. Pornography, sex addiction, marijuana, drugs, vaping, cigarettes. I mean, they're gambling, you shopping therapy. There's a lot of it. But what keeps people able to heal and sustain that healing from these things that make them selfish and that are very difficult to stop is a 12-step program, which is a non-religious but spiritual program where they're able to see themselves as a part of a bigger picture and give their power over to a greater power. And it's only in that way, when you study every single secular healing book or every religious book or 12-step program book, it says the same thing. Mel Robbins, Tony Robbins, Jamie Kern Lima, Oprah, you name it, they say the same thing. You need to believe in God and a power higher than yourself if you're going to achieve your purpose. So all of these highly successful people that are healing the world and have great marriages and children and have multi-millions of dollars and are all over the picture of success say the same thing. You want to create your best life, you got to believe in God and something greater than yourself to push yourself through those pain points. You're not going to want to break up with the person who's 90% good but not on your spiritual path if you don't believe in God and getting yourself into that level where your vision is for something greater than you to fulfill your purpose and have that stable, joyful life. So one is, you go.
And also, can I try something on this?
Yeah, but there's people, yeah. So while he's figuring something out on this, one is the commitment to yourself, two is believe in God, and three, there are so many resources. My first and favorite would be myself, because I learned from so many awesome people and I've compiled it. And who's an alive coach. And then the other person who's a non-alive coach is Louise Hay. These people, me and Louise Hay are just, let's just speak about Louise Hay. She's so great at giving you resources to very cool, marriedin2025.com. Definitely check out my link for those resources. So people like the OG, like Louise Hay, who is now in heaven, created very practical resources on how to learn how to love yourself and come towards yourself and be honest with yourself and realize that your thoughts and your speech create your reality. And then there's people like me who's done the hard work, who studied it for many years, who went to the programs and took a lot of different people like Louise Hay and the Lubavitcher Rebbe Menachem Mendel Schneerson and the Alter Rebbe and Tanya and also Tony Robbins and Mel Robbins and Joe Dispenza and all of these people. And I've created a program for women and men to heal before they marry because I had that opportunity and that blessing in my life. I attracted the wrong people because I didn't know how to love myself and didn't have enough love to break the love because it was too scary. And I was blessed with a life path where I was able to break the pain and believe that 10% could destroy me and that it's important to look at that. And I worked and learned to I then created a new person of myself with belief systems and attracted a very healthy person, which is this amazing, gorgeous husband, sweet, wonderful man right here, Adam, who really is somebody I aspire to be like, not I am inspiring to be like me. I just want to say that again. I attracted someone who I aspire to be like, not someone who I'm inspiring to be like me or what I hope for my future or for him to become for me. It's a really great distinction. So,
And so
yeah.
so the link right there,
Yeah, baby.
Married in 2025, this is a free checklist. Would you like to talk about what the checklist has in it, and kind of like, it's still in progress, but
yes,
would you like to
definitely.
talk a little bit about what is right there?
So if you click
That's
the link
cool.
below, marriedin2025.com, you will find a free PDF, which is something that Adam and I created, which are the 7 most common dating mistakes that happen that basically create people to have dating disasters or end up getting married to the wrong person. So I created a free PDF, which if you want to upgrade for a limited time, there's a holiday special of only $97 for all the videos that come with it, that are basically me explaining each mistake in more detail so you can really internalize how these mistakes play out in our life, in our belief systems, and therefore how to avoid them so you can ensure and secure yourself a sustainable marriage. So if you're really ready to up your life and start with yourself coming into relationships to have a sustainable, lasting love, definitely click the link below, Married in 2025. You will get a free PDF of checklist of really how to see the mistakes that are happening. And then if you want to upgrade only now for a limited time, you will have a $97 companion video series that goes with it that really brings the message home so you can internalize how best to live your awesome love life. So on that note, I think that you guys are amazing. I love you. Adam loves you. We love each other. We love our kids. We love the world, and we really love you guys. So,
and we're really here to give back, right? Like, why we're doing all of these these lives and creating stuff like right there, is that we really want to give back. I think that we have a beautiful marriage, and it was founded on great principles, and we're really trying to take what's working in our marriage, packaging it up into a nice little bundle, giving it to somebody else, and having them be able to repeat and to not mimic, but use that to inspire their own path. And I think that without direction, that there's confusion, and there's hurt, and there's pain, and there's heartbreak. And with a good system in place, it makes everything so much easier.
yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do, and
let us know what you want to hear. Let us know what you want to see. We love hearing from you guys, whether you're single or married or dating or engaged. We love the questions and the comments that come through. We've been doing this for a really long time. And it's not that you want to copy our marriage, but the characters and the traits that keep things sustainable and the progression that keeps things sustainable are replicable. So you're not trying to be like me and Adam. You have your own purpose and your own soulmate. But what is replicable are choosing a partner based on the future stability and sustainability versus the now and what makes you happy. Being honest that 10% is going to be the 90% and not hope somebody changes, and start upping your levels of life where you're committed to yourself and your needs so that you can choose someone who has the same visions as you, not ones that you hope to grow into, but something that you already are at, that you can then choose something that's sustainable, predictable, and stable.
And also, I don't know exactly where the comment section is, but it's either over there, or over there, or somewhere else. Please leave your comments. We take these, we generate our new video ideas of what we're going to talk about on the next live exactly from your comments. And so we really want to hear, what are questions that you have? What did you think about what we said? What did you agree with? What did you not agree with? We really want to hear from you, and really, build a community of people who are talking about this stuff. I think that if you go onto YouTube, or TikTok or whatever, you see so much of not this, so much of the now. How am I feeling now? And it just leads, if nothing changes, then nothing changes. If we consume the same content that's already prevalent on the internet, nothing is going to change. And we all know that divorce is like rampant, and so many people are unhealthy and on antidepressants. It's really about changing the paradigm. And one of the biggest core fundamental things in every single person's life is our relationships, our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with our most significant person in our lives, who we spend the most amount of time with in our entire lives, which is our spouse. And so what we need to do is to generate the conversation. We have to get the conversation going. We have to see and to build a community around this healing process. It's not a straight line. It's not here and I'm going to give you something and you go to there and there's a direct path. It's very what's the word? It's very
zigzaggy, but always going up. And you definitely need the right supports and the people who believe in you and the people who will tell you, don't date him again. Listen to yourself, versus the majority of the people who will say, date him again, just try, I'm sure it'll be fine. And then you disrespect yourself. So again, there's a lot of crappy advice. There's a lot of dating coaches, shadchanim, people telling you to just get married or focus on the other person or just give him another chance or don't listen to your intuition. I'm sure it meant nothing. And then people end up getting married or staying in these dating processes that really are causing a lot of detriment. So we are on a mission to give you back your power. No one is going to be in your house behind closed doors after you choose to get married but you. So you need to listen to your intuition, empower yourself, learn what you value. What's your soul print? Are you Buddhist or Christian? Are you Jewish? But it is important to find what you spiritually align with and find someone who's already in that alignment, not someone who you're hoping to change the fundamental soul of who they are just so that you can feel like you're making the right decision. Get to know yourself, not the voices of the world, so that you can be happy when you're on your deathbed that you lived the most epic life that you could have on this beautiful short time on earth.
And so one more thing is, what will they find down here?
marriedin2025.com. Definitely click it below. You will get a free PDF of 7 dating mistakes that are very common, that if you learn them, you can avoid them and therefore have a much higher level of predictability in securing a love that lasts, as well as a holiday one-time upgrade of video companions that I personally recorded on every single mistake. This way you can really understand them, have a guide on exactly what beliefs are causing them and how to break them, because you deserve an amazing life. You deserve your own love that is then matched with someone who's not only love you for what you do, but love you for who you are, that very special spark inside of you that no one can shift.
Beautiful. And also, if you comment married in the chat, we will also send that PDF to you.
Yes. So if you send a DM or a comment married, we will send that PDF directly to you, so you don't have to worry about even clicking it. Let's connect. We love you guys. We want to see more healthy babies coming into healthy marriages that last. Let's create a generational shift of positive and healthy, sustainable love, so that our little ones and the little souls that come into the world can have a safe space to flourish and grow.
Peace.
On that note, peace. We love you guys. Want to hear from you. Send that comment married, and